What's up, everybody? We are so glad you are here listening to the podcast with us today. We did have a few audio issues, so you'll notice some audio issues on this episode, but we still hope you enjoy it. Hope you have a great day listening to I Met Jesus.
All right. Welcome back, Crossroads Podcast, Episode 4. At least the newly relaunched Crossroads Podcast.
I don't think it's new anymore.
That's
Man,
true.
it's a month old.
Yeah.
And people are listening.
People are listening.
Like people are actually like talking stuff.
good.
Yeah, it's cool.
So we are on the road to Damascus, but before we get there, we're on the road for food that is maybe not the best for us.
Ooh.
Yeah, so in honor of March Madness, which I know is your favorite thing in the world,
What's that?
meaningless college basketball.
Oh,
Meaning.
Yeah, Jason hates college sports, but that's not the point. I have a 16-team bracket for the best fast food restaurants.
okay.
So I said that you were an expert in this and that we all were. I think it's true.
Hold on, just real quick. So the road to Damascus. Oh yeah. Okay, good. 16 fast food. Hey, we're talking, Wes. Let's go.
So we're going to have to go quick.
I know what I'm about, Kev.
We're going to have to go quick, and we have to answer, sort of fast.
So how does this work? Like you're gonna pit two things against each other, and we have
That's
to.
how it works. That's
Okay.
how the bracket works.
Okay.
One
Okay.
versus 16.
I gotcha.
Spicy.
116 is Chick-fil-A and Arby's.
Is it true you like Arby's?
I do like Arby's. I like
Chick-fil-A.
both those things. Chick-fil-A's got to win though.
Okay. Panda Express and Domino's is the 8-9.
Oh, Panda Express.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, okay. Five Guys and Subway.
Five
I don't
Guys.
think Five Guys is fast food. I don't think either one of these is fast food, but
Because they don't have drive-thrus.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll say Five Guys.
Yeah, the sweet onion chicken.
guys, the favorites are dominating right now.
Okay.
Chipotle with salad dressing.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Whataburger.
Whataburger now or Whataburger 10 years ago?
Whataburger now.
Wow, in your
2020.
face, Chicago. Okay.
I'm going Chipotle.
I'd probably go Chipotle too.
Okay, then I'll agree.
Popeyes or In-N-Out?
Popeyes.
Oh, I'll go in and out.
Yeah, I'm a Popeyes guy.
Okay.
Popeyes makes it through.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Now, this is not really, it's a national list, so we don't have a lot of these around here. Wendy's or White Castle?
So I don't like onions, so White
I'm probably
Castle
out on
doesn't
White
work
Castle.
for me.
Mm.
I'm Wendy's.
Yeah, I'd agree with Wendy's.
Sonic or Pizza Hut?
Pizza Hut.
I'm in on Pizza Hut.
Yeah,
I love
Pizza Hut. I do too.
First upset of the first round.
Pizza Hut, I think, is an underrated pizza place.
Yep, me too. I think it's the
There's
I think
nothing.
it's the
Dude,
best delivery pizza you can get.
I'm with you.
McDonald's or Jimmy John's?
Jimmy John's.
Yeah, I'd probably say Jimmy John's.
Yeah, another upset. McDonald's 2-seed going down in the first round.
Wow.
15 Jimmy John's. All right, here we go.
It's like the Longhorns.
That's for you, Jaden. Chick-fil-A or Panda?
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, I'm Chick-fil-A.
I'll be going Panda Express. I'm sorry.
Chick-fil-A is advanced because, it's one bracket.
I got you.
Five Guys or Chipotle?
Five Guys.
Five Guys.
Okay. Popeyes or Wendy's? I'm Popeyes on this.
I'm taking Wendy's.
I'll go Wendy's also.
Okay. Pizza Hut or Jimmy John's? I'm Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut.
All right. Pizza Hut or Wendy's?
I'm still going Pizza Hut.
I'm Pizza Hut too.
Okay, there you go. That was a good tough one.
And then Five Guys or Chick-fil-A?
I'll take Chick-fil-A.
Oh gosh, this was hard. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Shout out Ryan Smith.
I'm gonna go Chick-fil-A. My wife will. I gotta feed my
I
family.
was gonna go Five Guys. Man,
Well, you should have said something.
I've said a lot already. I've said more today than I've said in all the podcasts combined.
That's
Chick-fil-A. This is the final. Chick-fil-A and Pizza Hut.
first of all, I could say as finals go, I'd watch that one.
I feel like I have.
Like I feel like there's no lose here.
I would pick Pizza Hut, but we can have individual winners here. I'd pick Pizza Hut.
You know what? I'm going to pick Chick-fil-A
Oh,
to make it tied.
Yeah, I'm going Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Man, I didn't know you were a Pizza Hut guy. Because here we order Marco's or Domino's every time we have pizza.
Yeps, that's true. Yeps. Marco's is close, and I usually don't order the pizza.
That's true.
All right, so the ultimate goal would be the Crossroads podcast brought to you by Pizza Hut.
And Chick-fil-A.
Oh my gosh.
And if
Listen.
you would like to bring us Pizza Hut and or Chick-fil-A
Or I'm going to just say this. If you are watching
or
and
listening,
we're
This happened
listening.
in the past, so.
If you are watching or listening and you are like, I can't believe they voted down this one, and you want to prove that yours is great, you can bring us any of these things, and we would be glad to try them on air anytime.
All right, I like so this is going to turn into a biblical /
food critic.
Hey, that's a niche.
Hey, yeah. Who else is doing it, Kev?
I mean, that is my world.
Come on, Kay.
Bible and food.
I didn't think I would get the opportunity to make this joke. And
Oh.
Hopefully you won't expel me from the room. But
This is going great, guys.
if we had a pizza place for these purposes, could we call it Jesus Crust?
That's so good.
Nice
Robert would have loved it.
smell from the room. I did not think I'd have a chance to make that joke.
Dad,
Here we are.
It's like welcome area.
I don't-
There's like a sign over the hospital. It's like, Jesus Christ.
well, it's like when you have the coffee shop in churches, and they're like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
holy grounds.
Yes.
You know.
I promise everybody there'll be a lot more Jason and Wes after this. So.
I thought it was genius.
Okay.
I did not know where you were going,
Okay,
and
okay,
I
good.
had no idea.
So actually workshop that with my radio crew over there. And I go, do you think they'll be upset? And Corey's like, no, that's objectively funny.
It is funny.
And I was like, yes. All right, are we going to Acts
Yeah.
for today? All right.
Maybe.
Or more fast food.
Of course we're going to Acts.
All right, so just the first thing that popped into my head is we're doing the road to Damascus, which I feel like for some people they know the saying or they know that specific phrase, but do they actually know like what happens? I don't know if they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people might have like a loose idea.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know how much everybody actually knows, like some of all the deep detail and even the context of it.
Yeah, there's some, even today reading it, like there were some cool details I saw that I was like, oh, I wonder what that means. And I wonder, like, I'm excited to dive in.
Do you want to read the whole thing? And then
So
we go?
here's the challenge.
Before we do,
Yeah.
go ahead. What's the challenge?
The challenge is it doesn't start in chapter 9.
So let me give us some
I
background.
was going to back up. Well, you can give us some background.
Yeah, let me give us some background.
Give us tons of
I wrote some stuff up because I was like, I got to make sure that we cover some things because I feel like all this is super important and leading into chapter 9. So first of all, this is around 36 AD in Jerusalem. Stephen, prior to this dude named Stephen is preaching. He preaching to a bunch of people, including Jewish religious leaders. They are not happy. It's a really beautiful message, and you're like, oh, is it going to like change hearts and lives? And the answer is no. They are going to yell at him and drag him out and stone him while he is looking up in the sky and say, Lord, receive my spirit. Do not hold this sin against them. And the guy who is going to end up writing most of the New Testament is holding the coats. He is, we know him as Saul at this point. Basically, to be in the position he's in, doing what he's doing, is like a guy that is giving his blessing to the death of this Christian named Stephen. So it doesn't sound really nice, and it's going to get even worse. In Acts chapter 8, it says Saul began to destroy the church, going from house to house, dragging both men and women into prison. And then after that, actually, like that doesn't sound good. So one guy's getting stoned to death. He's dragging people out of houses, and it's going to get even worse. So there is full-on bloodlust that is not quenched in him. He's going to try to destroy the whole church. He's going to beat people, imprison people. He's going to kill people. If you're going like, wait, Paul, is this the same guy that writes like love is patient, love is kind, Yep, same dude. This is how big of a transition that happens in his life. And so that's who he is. At this moment, he is giving his blessing to the death of someone, dragging people out of homes, putting them in prison, and killing them. Now, how is he getting to that? What kind of a person is he? Well, he's born in Tarsus. It's on the Syrian border next to Turkey. He is incredibly educated. As a matter of fact, of all the people that we read about in the New Testament, he's really the only one other than Luke that would have any kind of formal education or training that I can recall off the top of my head. And he's trained by the absolute best of the best. His father is both Roman and Jewish, so he has kind of like dual citizenship. He understands multiple cultures, multiple languages. At the age of 13, he starts getting trained under a guy named Gamaliel, who's like the head of or he's a member of the Sanhedrin, which is like this major like kind of religious council. He spends years of his life memorizing the Old Testament. Then he's going to return to Tarsus, renowned, like people know his name. So like when we understand like who he really is, he is also a member of the Sanhedrin. He's one of the religious elites, but he's not just one of. He's essentially like next in line to take over the whole thing, and so he is a major like politics and religion were very intertwined. And so he is like the heir apparent to power. That's who he is. He hated Christians, and he hated Christians because it undercut absolutely everything he'd built his life on. Because Christians are coming along saying the only way to get to God is through Jesus Christ. He has been taught his whole life to know the law and to follow the rules of the law, and that is how you honor God. Luke is going to say this in chapter 8, verse 3, that Saul laid waste to the church. The way the CSB says it is Saul was ravaging the church. Like, it's an intense thing. In the process, and this is the part that I think we miss, he thinks he's serving God. Like, he doesn't think, man, I am a horrible, he's not anti-God. He is actually pro-God. He just has a false view of who God is and who Christ is. And so,
there's a part in chapter 9 that kind of is super important to this background. It's the first verse. Now, Saul was still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord. And I actually remember being in Greek class a long time ago now in college, but we talked about this verse. The reason the word breathing is used here is because that is the thing that kept him going. That is the motivation of his heart.
Yep.
So just like breathing is what keeps our life going, the thing that was driving Paul's life was murder and threats against the disciples of the Lord. So just trying to be reminded of like, this guy is vehemently against the movement of God. And to your point, and he thinks he's doing the right thing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'd written down here is like, when your spirit is shaped by religion and not by a relationship with God, then you end up protecting and attacking the wrong things. We see that today, even like all the time.
Sometimes, and I don't want to move too far off track, sometimes do you feel like that can be the most dangerous type of person, the person who is not just like evil or whatever you would say, but the person who thinks, no, I'm doing the right thing?
I mean, I think we have like a whole history of in the world and in American culture that you can point to one. Now, whether they knew they were goofballs or not, who knows? But like, I mean, you like David Koresh in Waco, and like person after person of going like, dude, did they think? I mean, the people that followed them certainly thought they were rightly motivated.
Because they were like, look, I'm following the new Messiah.
Yeah, absolutely. Which gets to a point you made earlier, which is when you don't know enough on your own, it makes it infinitely easier to follow something false that sounds true.
Exactly. It sounds true and sounds confident. That's the other thing I've always thought is, if you sound confident, you'd be like, oh, that guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, there's a pastor that always says this: just because it sounds good doesn't mean that it is good.
No.
And like just like being reminded of that, like especially into like I think about, we're gonna really get off the rails here, but like today's like social media, like TikTok preacher world, like there's so much stuff that sounds good and sounds like the gospel that isn't good. So like to your point, Jason, like it is so important for us to know enough to when we hear things that are wrong and we see people and that sound good and they go, but that's not the gospel.
Yeah, including us. Like I would like we should always be held to that standard also. Like there's a reason we do what we call equip Bible classes here. We want to teach people how to read, understand the context, understand the meaning, understand the interpretation behind Scripture for themselves, because they should be able to tell if we say something that is going sideways with what the Bible says. Like that is important. Like don't trust somebody just because they sound trustworthy or confident or whatever kind of boldness they have. And so that's the danger here. Paul has anchored his life to something false that he truly believed was good. And it's going to go the wrong direction. So this point in the story for us, he's the villain. And so he's purging Jerusalem, And essentially when he's done, after everything he's done, overseeing the death of Stephen, pulling people out of houses, killing people, like laying waste to the church in Jerusalem, he is still not satisfied. So he takes a 6-day ride or walk to Damascus, and that's when everything turns upside down on him. So that's a little bit of the background. You may have had other stuff you wanted to cover going into that.
The only other thing I thought about, and it's kind of jumping the gun, but it's actually in chapter 8, is right after we get introduced to who Saul is, and it says that he's ravaging the church and he's dragging off men and women into prison. Then it says that the believers were scattered. And then there's the story that we're not going to cover today. But in verse 4 of chapter 8, it says, so those who were scattered went on their way preaching the word. So it's just a reminder to me that, like, even in Saul's disobedience to God, God is working ahead of Paul. Like, he's going to end up, like, all these believers are scattered across the known world. And then this same guy that has scattered them is going to end up writing letters, investing in the very people that his persecution drove them out of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just like it's a cool, like, hand of God moment in chapter 8 where Saul's not even following Jesus yet, but God's going ahead of him and going, these people that you're persecuting, you're going to reach.
Yeah. And just to kind of put a understanding of what that looks like. So, like, most of Christianity is centralized in Jerusalem at this time in the first century kind of Christian world. Jesus has come. He's lived most of his life in that area. That's been what it's developed. You don't have, like, some of the things that you're going to have later, because Paul, this guy, is the one that goes on these missionary journeys and travels all over the world sharing the gospel. So it's concentrated there. Something happens that explodes them from there to all over that region. And what happens is Saul. Saul comes in and they go scattered, what Wes just read, they go preaching the gospel. Then, and you'll see this in the story, but then God is going to reach that same guy. And do you know where he's going to send him? To all the places he scattered those people to. So when he shows up, they know who he is.
And I was just about to ask if there was any kind of, like, I don't know, like, not comeuppance is not the right word, but like reuniting of, like, hey.
We're going to see that.
Yep.
Story.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's there.
Yep.
And so something for another time, just because I was thinking about this, I don't know if you guys would ever want to just talk about, like, any unfinished stories or stories that you wanted to follow up to in the Bible. Like, you made reference a couple of weeks ago. I was like, man, I'd really love to know, like, what happened in that. Or maybe it was in one of your sermons. I think that could be a fascinating topic of discussion for another show. Is like, oh man, I'd really like to know what happened after that.
Yeah, it's that, and this is going to date me big time, but it's like this, like, Paul Harvey moment of Scripture. Like, what was the rest of the story? Like, what came from beyond that? And you can look at me that way all you want. That is a Radio Hall of Famer, and I'm just going to stay with it.
Just don't know who it is.
Okay.
We'll finish it off like that. I gotcha.
So that kind of leads us into where we're at in chapter 9. At this point, if we, of Acts, I cede the microphone to the gentleman from to our right.
Yeah, am I reading? Is that what is happening?
I think we've gotten a good flow of going through it. And then
Yeah, I mean, if you want to try to interpret it a different way than reading, you can. You could sing it maybe, or like a rap.
Guys, it's been great today. Thanks for tuning into the podcast.
He was doing sound effects before we started rolling, so
Morse code, chapter 9, in Morse code, guys. Here we go. I don't know how long I'm going to read because I don't know that we're going to read all 30 verses. So we'll go for a little bit. Now Saul was still breathing threats of murder against the disciples of the Lord. He went to the high priest and requested letters from him to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any men or women who belonged to the way,
Pause.
we'll come back to.
Oh, you're going to do it? You want to do it now?
He might bring them as prisoners to Jerusalem. You can do it now.
Well, good.
No, go ahead.
Well,
You're good.
this is just one of those things that we talked about with our church not too long ago. It's like sometimes people, like, don't realize we've not always been called Christians. So, like, there's a time, I believe it's in Antioch, is the first time that we are referred to as Christians, which basically just means like little Christ, like little pictures of Jesus. But before that, you were known by it was what discipleship was. So a rabbi would come and you would follow this rabbi, and so following this rabbi, they would teach you how to what they believed, how to live, how to talk, how to exist. And so for Jesus, there was such a radical departure from their lives. We were first known as followers of the way. Like that was just like, and so like that makes certain verses change how they mean to you. When he just says like, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. What he's saying is only when you walk according to my word, my law, my guidance, my gospel, that is the only place you find life and freedom and all those things. And so it was also an indication of like kind of movement for us, is like to follow Christ doesn't mean, all right, I'll follow Jesus and nothing happens. No, I'm to follow him and do and be the way he is.
Yeah, and I think it's like, it's such a cool thing when you start to learn stuff like this. It makes certain things come alive in your life. Like I think about the worship song. It feels like we do it all the time here.
Jesus Way.
Jesus Way.
Yeah.
Like it's not just a sweet lyric that Phil Wickham wrote. Like it's literally a reference back to our origin of Christianity.
Yep.
So like all of a sudden the phrase "I choose the Jesus way" has so much more weight and has so much more meaning when we know like this is where we started from.
Yep.
That we were followers of the way first. Yeah.
Chris Tomlin said it best years ago. He said the best worship leaders are plagiarists. They just take those words directly from Scripture.
Yeah. All
right, go ahead.
Going. You can just stop me whenever. That's how we'll do this.
I agree.
As he traveled and was nearing Damascus, a light from heaven suddenly flashed around him. Falling to the ground, he heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Who are you, Lord? Saul said, I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting, he replied. But get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do.
Pause right there. This feels just like this phrasing right here feels like the crux of many of these stories of whenever you talk about like he goes to the people who are not on the path. He goes to the people who are broken or going down the wrong path or whatever, because those are the people that, I mean, you're more likely to, or hopefully, make a bigger impact with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk more about that here in a minute. But like, there is a reality of like watching the kind of people God goes after, and like, what's the reason behind that? And we'll get to that more at the end of the story. Some of the things that jump out to me here is when you look at this and it says he traveled and was nearing Damascus when a light from heaven suddenly flashed around him. So I think sometimes, like, if you were envisioning this in your mind, what does it look like to you?
I hear the choral music as well. When the light shines down, it's like, like, just, and that's just a...
Please keep singing, Kevin.
Yeah, that's just a product of, like, movies and TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So when it gets described like that, like, in my mind, I am picturing that kind of, like, cone of light or whatever coming down on me.
So is it...
dark.
Yeah, in the dark. But it's not dark.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at Acts 22, it will tell you this is happening, you know when?
No, go ahead.
At midday, at the highest point of the sun.
So how spectacular must that light be?
So the light that shines is brighter than the sun. And it's bright enough and shocking enough beyond the glow of our massive sun that it knocks him to his knees. Like when you envision that cone of light, it's almost like it's like the birth of Jesus, which we always see depicted at night because of the stars and stuff. And you're like, oh, this beam of light gently resting on the baby Jesus. This is a violent, like supernatural action, and it's powerful to think about. Like he's not going to ever forget it. He's going to talk about this experience over and over again for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and you immediately see he's not confused. Even though he asks a question,
That's a great point.
but he ends the question with a title, right? Who are you, Lord? See, like Saul is one of the most powerful people that he knows, but ultimately when he's on the road to Damascus, in this moment, he understands he's not the most powerful person anymore.
Yeah, because I think we often misunderstand. God says, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And we almost read that like the way I would say it, which is like, why are you beating up on me? But this is God talking, who just knocked you down with light in the daytime. It's I am almost reading it as almost more sarcasm of like, you persecuting me? Like you think that you got the weight, that you got the juice to go and like you think your persecution is diminishing me? And because God's not sitting there going, "Oh, Saul, why would you do that?" Like,
you hurting my feelings.
right? Yeah, like God's not. That's not the way this it can be read, because that's what's the
Robert De Niro in Taxi.
right.
You diminishing me?
Oh, what is it? Anthropomorphism, is that what it's called?
Yeah, go ahead. Big word.
Well, it's like where we're attributing human characteristics to God.
That's the word.
Like we're reading this like we would say it. But we aren't saying it. My finite, broken, almost 50-year-old, at times frail, at times sick, at times weak body is not going, "Oh my gosh, why are you persecuting me?" The divine creator of the universe is looking at a guy who thinks he's operating in power and authority to diminish the power and authority of someone else. And that person stood up and go, "Why are you like what good do you think this is doing?"
It's either that or it's what are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's another perspective of like, he's like, why are you persecuting me?
Yeah.
It's like this, because the flip side of that is like Saul thinks he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So for God to show up and go, "Saul, why are you persecuting the very people that are serving the God that you think you're serving?"
Yeah, and to be clear, like when I say we can't read it like this, I don't mean that I know for sure how God meant it. What I do think is true.
It can't be read like God's getting his feelings hurt.
Yes.
Like, why are you doing this?
It's not the way we tend to think it. It's got to have a different emphasis. But the other thing that I had written in my Bible years ago, I like to write in my Bible. I
see that.
I do it all the time. And one of the things that I'd written years ago is like Satan calls you by your sin, Jesus calls you by your name.
Yep.
And I just love that. Like he says, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" He approaches him from a personal standpoint. And I love that, because this is going to be the turning point for Paul. When you think about when Satan comes at us, Satan always comes at us like, "You are an addict, you are an adulterer, you are a failure."
The accuser.
Yeah, he is. I mean, that's one of his names, right? He is the accuser. But Jesus doesn't start with accusation. He starts with his name. He's like, "Man, I know who you are." And like, think about the reality in Saul's life, who truly I truly believe, even though he was way wildly off base, thought he was honoring God. And now something that can only be described as deity
Yeah.
has knocked him off a horse and called him by name, or not necessarily off a horse, we don't know that for sure, but knocked him down and called him by name. And you're like, like that's got to be like, if I'm Saul, that's my first revelation of like, oh, I may have wildly misjudged some things. So,
Yeah, then he says, "Who are you, Lord?" Which is kind of the point of like that I was getting to, of like, at this point he's not confused who he's talking to. Like, it's clearly God. It's clearly an interaction with somebody stronger than him. And then Jesus introduces himself, which is a weird thing. Like, in the previous stories we even talked about on the podcast, like there's almost this like slow reveal of who Jesus is.
Yeah.
And Paul's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I am Jesus."
But you have to appreciate it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like there's no subterfuge or anything. It's like
absolutely.
to the point.
But I think it's also attacking everything Saul believes. Because, again, Saul thought he's honoring God. He wants to go at Christians because Christians are saying Jesus is the way to God. And he wants to believe that the law and following it is the way to God. And so he wouldn't necessarily be he would probably be shocked if this happened no matter what. But if it would have said, "I am Yahweh," he would have went, "Well, that checks out. Like, I've always thought there was a Yahweh God." But he's saying, "I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting." Now he's got to reconcile the fact that Jesus, who he thinks has no connection to God, is the one who just knocked him down with light and is talking to him out of nowhere.
I can't even imagine how quickly your brain is moving in that moment to be like, okay, so I was wrong about that, and here's the confrontation, and
Yeah.
I better figure this
My
out.
whole life
Yeah.
is wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, that's the recognition here, because it's going to say, like, Jesus is going to give him instruction, but get up, go into the city, you'll be told what you must do. And we see he goes. But this was the part I mentioned earlier, like a part of the story that I had not thought about until today, where it says the men who were traveling with him stood speechless, hearing the sound, but seeing no one. Saul got up from the ground, and though his eyes were open, he could see nothing. So they took him by the hand and led him into Damascus. And I was just thinking about the other dudes that were with him and how weird this experience was, because you almost get the feeling of this, that like there's this big audible moment from God, because there's this interaction where Jesus says, I am Jesus, the one who you're persecuting. But, oh, sorry, they heard the sound. They didn't see anyone. You get this you get this vision that like Jesus shows up and he's there. But what's weird is the people around him see nothing. They just hear the interaction.
Yeah.
And it's clear to them also that it's God, because they get up and lead a blind guy for 3 days. So, like, I don't know, it's a reminder that when we encounter Jesus, especially in a way like this, where God shows up in a kind of unmistakable way, that there are people around that can see it, and our response matters. Because Saul at this point is going, I will go to the city. And they're like, we will help you.
Yeah.
And like Saul's response, even immediately, is going to have impacts on the people around him.
Yeah. So like that's a great point. Like the main dude in the story, I mean Saul, who has the authority, like he has been given like legal documents to go and persecute the Christian church. So the main guy with the authority to persecute the church, and who has dedicated his life to it, in an instant changes his allegiance and becomes obedient to what God is asking him to do, and recognize, like, this is like, I was trying to think of like, this is like LeBron going to South Beach. This is Tom Brady going to the Bucks times a billion, where you're like, how did that guy, this is Luka going to the Lakers. I knew it was coming. You sit back and go, how did that guy change teams? How is that possible? Like, that's the guy you go, there's no way that guy is ever playing for another team. That guy is ever committed to another cause. There's no way that could ever change. And then it changed. Like, that's how insane. Like, take the shock. I mean, this is so trivial and silly, but take the shock of especially the DFW sports world, but the ripples beyond to all of the NBA world in America. When Luka gets traded to the Lakers, it's all we can talk about. This is bigger. Like, this is not some guy with some authority decides to defect and do like, or he's kind of growing up in the law in the world of the Pharisees and he is the guy, and for the Christians, public enemy number one, and he just became your star player. That's. I don't know I don't know how well you follow sports metaphors, but
if you want something more contemporary, John Cena turning into a bad guy. There you go. I'll throw that.
Jason would say that's not a sports.
I don't know if that's sports, but I do love that he's become a heel. That's pretty fun.
That means a bad guy, though, for those of you watching.
Oh man, why don't sports explain to people. Next.
He was. Give me a shirt. He was unable to see for 3 days and did not eat or drink. There was a disciple in Damascus named.
This is such the craziest switch. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I'm not. I don't have anything to say. I think sometimes we read.
I don't have anything to say. Goes on to talk.
Sometimes we read through the Bible and we don't pause to take in what these moments mean. Like, go ahead and read the text. We'll talk about it.
He was unable to see for 3 days and did not eat or drink. There was a disciple in Damascus named Ananias, and the Lord said to him in a vision, Ananias, here we go.
God calls you by your name.
Yeah. Here I am, Lord, he replied. Get up and go to the street called Straight. The Lord said to him, to the house of Judas, and ask for a man from Tarsus named Saul, since he is praying there. In a vision, he has seen a man named Ananias coming in and placing his hands on him so that he may regain his sight. Can we just pause?
Yeah, yes, please.
There's a lot happening here. But my favorite part is the first verse. There was a disciple in Damascus named Ananias. Like, he is the most unexpected person. Like, this is a dude that is just faithfully following Jesus. Disciple just means learner. So he's just learning what it means to follow God. And then just Ananias, this is the vibe that I get. This is not in the text. But like in just his daily time with the Lord, God shows up and says, Ananias, I've got a moment for you. And it's just in his faithful obedience discipleship world where God's going to show up and go, hey, you've been learning, and now I have a mission for you today.
Yeah. And he's playing such a critical role. We hear nothing else about his life.
Nope.
All we know is that he is faithful, and he is faithful enough in this moment that God calls on him in a critical, like sometimes we think we need to play this massive role. And the truth is all of us are bit players in a story about God. Like this movie of life is not about Jason. It's not about Wes. It's not about Kevin. Like we are all supporting cast to a better story. And Ananias is going to live in that. But also, man, I got to imagine like God is going to give he gives him the address. Like he gives him like GPS coordinates, like put this in your phone.
Go to Straight Street.
Go to Straight Street. Ask for this guy at this house. Like this is how. Like they didn't have numbers. They were like, Straight Street in the house of Judas. Like that's the address. That's the physical address. And you got to go. He's like, I just am like, this is me playing in my own head. This isn't in the text. Where Ananias is like, okay, all right, God's talking to me. This is cool. All right, go. There's a guy I want you to go see. He's been blind for 3 days. Oh, man, this is going to be powerful. This is going to be really exciting. I need you to go to Straight Street, go to the house of Judas. Oh, man, I've been there before. That's good. This is going to be amazing. I'm so excited. God's talking to me. I want you to go talk to a guy from Tarsus. Oh, man, I've heard some guys from Tarsus. One guy's not real great. And his name's Saul. And he's like, Lord?
Don't jump ahead yet. That's
you. But I need us to understand before we read his response. I think if I could give the most current analogy I can envision, it would be like God said, Kevin, I want you to go to this address and go visit John Wick who hates Christians.
Oh. I'd be like, I have a follow-up. I know I shouldn't, but I just
Very, very appropriate. Go ahead.
Well, that is what he's going to do. He is going to say, he's going to have a follow-up question. Lord, Ananias answered, which, by the way, Ananias' first response is, here I am, Lord.
Yeah.
And his second response is, Lord, I have heard
some stuff.
Many people about this man, how much harm he has done to your saints in Jerusalem, and he has authority here from the chief priests to arrest all who call on your name. But the Lord said to him, go, for this man is my chosen instrument to take my name to the Gentiles, kings, and Israelites. I will show him how much he must suffer for my name. We'll pause there for a minute.
I mean, it's an unbelievably shocking turn of events. For Ananias to be called upon in this moment, think about the courage that this is going to require.
With essentially 2 sentences. And he's like, here are all the things I've heard. Here are all my concerns. 2-sentence response. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the next 2 words of verse 17, Ananias went, is such a powerful response. I actually mentioned this in the sermon on Sunday when we were talking about forgiveness. Like there's actually a moment of forgiveness here that Saul's going to experience, even from Ananias, because Ananias's his view of Saul is that he has wronged his people.
Yeah.
And he is anti-Saul. So for Saul to experience, he's already experienced the forgiveness of God on the road to Damascus. And one of his first experiences with a Christian is going to be forgiveness. Because we know that because Ananias is even willing to go.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just an incredible it's a powerful story of just Ananias' character.
But imagine what this looks like today, where you go, okay, I want you to go and be a blessing to this guy, who, by the way, is also the guy leading ISIS. Or go, this is obviously not possible now. Go minister to Osama bin Laden. Go share the gospel with Hitler. Yep. Like, this is what he's being asked to do. And I mean, so it does beg the question, like God can use anybody to do anything. Like if God hadn't called me to Crossroads, God could use anybody else to do what he wanted to do at Crossroads. God worked through Saul, who will later know as Paul, and wrote the majority of the New Testament. But he also could have used anybody else. Like he could have, we could be sitting here 2,000 years later talking about the 13 letters of Ananias. Like God could have used anybody. Why does he pick Saul?
Yeah, I mean, he's uniquely equipped to reach this group of people. Like he's grown up in Rome. He is fluent in the law because he's grown up under Gamaliel's influence, and I mean that's why he is so uniquely equipped, because he has influence with the Jews, and he has influence in the Gentile world, and God's going to use that to reach the world. That's why it says he is my chosen instrument. Like this is the I said this one time in a message, and Don quotes it back to me all the time. But like God is good at his job. Like God understands the most effective way to get the gospel out. So to choose Saul, and Saul being willing to do it it's genius. Like it's perfect.
Yeah, so let's go back to what we talked about at the beginning. You got these people in Jerusalem. They've been scattered. They're carrying the gospel there. I mean, you've got guys like Ananias who are disciples in these places. God needs to send his instruction into those places. And I think sometimes we miss how much God is setting things up. It's not even just that God's setting things up through Saul, which I'll come back to in a minute. But even like, I love the little moments in the Bible. It says, and he traveled along these roads. Yeah. Those roads did not exist before the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire has had dominion in this place. The Roman Empire shares all of these roads and builds all these roads so that the military and the power and the trade routes of everything for Rome can keep the Roman Empire great, because in their mind, the Roman Empire will last forever. The Roman Empire, turns out, does not last forever. But also, their roads that they thought were going to be used to really be the spread of the Roman Empire are going to be the roads that allow Paul to move to all of these other places and take the gospel more efficiently and effectively to all those places. It's no different than today. A modern image of this was like the internet. I remember saying this back during COVID in 2020, and we were doing a Good Friday service, going like, imagine like all the people that created the internet, social media platforms, live streaming, all that stuff. How many of them were sitting back years before going, guys, one day we'll basically host thousands of church services. Yeah. And yet that's what happened. Yep. And it's no different than the roads from Rome. God redeems them for a reason and a purpose. So anyway, now you've got these roads. Paul's going to travel to all these places. And the guy that is going to get to those places is going to be the guy they would have seen as the worst of the worst of the worst. I think part of the reason he chooses Saul is because when Saul comes into one of those places, you're kind of left with like no other, like the only thought you could possibly have is, if God can reach him,
Yep. Said this Sunday,
then he has to be able to reach me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like it's this, he chooses Paul to fully display the power of the gospel to every one of these places. Who better to say following the law will not result in the life that you want, but a guy who attempted to follow the law to get that life and it failed? Who better to go, God can forgive anyone of anything, but a guy who has murdered and imprisoned innocent people for the sake of the gospel? If God can use him, then who can't he use?
Yeah, there's, as we move through it, this next part, you talk about just stuff being loaded with meaning, but if you don't know, you'll miss it. Ananias went and entered the house. He placed his hands on him and said, "Brother Saul, the Lord Jesus who appeared to you on the road you were traveling has sent me so that you may regain your sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit." And at once, something like scales fell from his eyes. He regained his sight. Then he got up and was baptized. And after taking some food, he regained his strength. I just love the brother.
Yeah,
part. That,
absolutely.
Like, 3 verses earlier, in a conversation with the Lord, Ananias was like, do you know who you're talking about? And somehow, on, we talk about the road to Damascus, on Ananias' road to Straight Street, something has changed in his heart. Like, something has changed to where when his first reaction with Saul is going to be to call him brother.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of other things he could have called him.
Yep, 100%.
Sure.
Yes.
What are some of those, Kevin? I'm just kidding.
That's what I was about to ask you, Jason.
It might rhyme with words to start.
It's just an incredible statement of like Ananias' faith again, just to go like, I believe what God said, and I believe He's going to show up in this moment, and then it happens.
Yeah,
like everything happens exactly like God said it would.
yeah. And imagine in our life right now if God took your greatest enemy and turned them into a family member, like the person that you hated the most,
Yay.
and then were like, we're family.
And I would love to tell you that's how I would respond, but I could see how that might take a lot more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
If ever.
Yeah, I think we also learned something about, and we're going to see this like in the life of Paul for the rest of his life, but he does something early on in his faith that I think is so critical to our life as believers, and it's so critical to his. He's just obedient fast. Like when you sit and talk to somebody that wants to come to faith, especially teenagers, did a lot of years in student ministry, and they're like, well, is God going to make me change? Is God going to make me change? And I'm like, well, my hope is that you fall in love with Jesus and you want to change.
Yeah.
But like Saul immediately knows like his whole life is going to change. It's like he does exactly what God tells him. It says he got up and was baptized. And then the next verse it's going to say he immediately went on sharing the gospel. Like there's a heart to be obedient to God's word immediately.
And I think sometimes in our culture, like that we get this idea of like, we know it's not true, but people still live in it all the time. Well, once I give my life to Jesus, things will get easier. Things will get better. There's a verse we skipped over. We read it, but we didn't talk about it. It's like, while he's blind, he says, I'm going to show him all the ways he must suffer for my name. So Paul knows from the outset, following Jesus is going to cost me. I don't know what it means when he says, I'm show him all the ways. Here's what we know about Paul. He is twice beaten with the cat of nine tails, the same kind of whip that was used on Christ. He is imprisoned. He is shipwrecked. He is snake bit. There is beating after beating after beating. And there's a part of me, that like, did he see all of that? Because on one hand, you could be like, that is going to not be cool at all. But there's this other part that makes me go like, maybe part of his persistence all the time was this, I've said this before, even like in a message of like going, is he sitting there when he's being beaten one time going, well, this is no fun, but I'm not dying this way. I got like 7 more beatings I've seen already. So like, this isn't going to end me. Like, I know I'm going to continue. I know I'm going to do more. Like, I don't know what it means when he says he showed him all the way. But what I do know is that Paul got up from this with conviction and commitment. And his conviction and commitment wasn't to an easier life. The truth is, being a Pharisee was going to lead him to an easier life. He was going to have an income. He was going to have power. He was going to have authority. He was going to have prestige. He was going to have all those things. He already had the fame. He's going to abandon all that, and he's going to have none of it for the rest of his life. He's going to die a horrible death the whole time proclaiming the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Like, I mean, it's an insane thing to go like, he saw all the ways he would suffer and still went, that's a better way to spend my life than the path I was on.
Yeah, and I think to the point of like, is it going to be easier to follow Jesus? Like, I think about all the conversations that are not recorded here. Like all the times that Paul had to walk into places, into families where he had imprisoned family members or killed family members of people. Like none of that is in here, but we know it happened because he walks back into all these places and shares the gospel. So like, I know like when people come to faith, there's always questions of like, what are other people going to think? How do I explain this? How do I do this? I'm like, this dude killed members of people's families.
Yeah.
And was having to walk back into those cities and going, hey, man, that thing that I killed a family member of yours for, I believe it now, and I'm the champion of that. Like, that's a hard conversation.
Yeah.
It's awkward,
Yeah.
but it didn't stop him.
Yeah, you got to imagine at some point he had a conversation. It was like, hey, I was the one that got your husband killed.
Yep, exactly.
And they didn't immediately say, "Hey, brother." It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, we've
I'm not sure everybody responded like Ananias.
Yeah.
right. Well, we have evidence that
Yeah.
that people are skeptical of him.
Yeah,
I mean, like you're going to find more of that.
The disciples are skeptical.
Yes, people. I mean, it's human nature to go, is this real or is this guy like this feels like a setup?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out it's not going to be, and he's going to play a major role in. And this is what I love about the story of Saul. He spends the first part of his life working hard to exclude people from God, and he's going to spend the rest of his life working to bring the excluded people to Jesus. Like the phrase the thing we read earlier, he is going to be my chosen instrument to take my name to the Gentiles. Like, Wes, can you speak to like how what Ananias would have heard in that? Because Ananias, as far as we understand, I mean, is not a Gentile.
Yeah,
He's a Jewish man.
Yeah, I mean, Gentiles were always considered the people that weren't welcome in the kingdom of God. Now, Jesus would proclaim over and over that he was going to reach the Gentiles.
Yeah.
But it's a radical statement for Paul to go, or really for God to say that he's going to reach the Gentiles through this guy. And the fact that in the same sentence he says he's going to reach the Gentiles and the Israelites is a huge statement of just, it's counterculture. It's counter to everything they would have ever believed about Gentiles, that Gentiles and Israelites could actually be reached in the same family for the same purpose.
Yeah, this is like, we're going to get Cowboys and Eagles fans to get along.
Sure.
Like,
Lots of sports references.
I like it.
so
I want to speak to something
Yeah.
you said. So you were talking about, and I'm going to jump way ahead in Acts chapter 9, but it's to the point of excluding people. But I think like Paul spends his life excluding people from the gospel and then spends the rest of his life, bringing people in. But Paul has this experience with the disciples in Acts 9, where it says when he arrived in Jerusalem, he tried to join the disciples, but they were all afraid of him since they didn't believe him. And then it says, however, Barnabas. And like Barnabas is the first guy that walks in, puts his arm around Saul, and he's like, this guy's legit. Like this guy who once was excluded from us is now a part of us. And I just think about like how powerful that is of like the disciples end up welcoming in Paul because of one dude's boldness to go, this guy was excluded, but now he's in. And I don't know, it's just an incredible, like Barnabas is not, like there's no book called Barnabas.
Yeah.
We don't get a whole lot of information about him, but we get this one moment with the disciples where he's named and he's the guy that says, God's really going to use him.
Yeah, and that's what I think like you look at the other people in this story, Ananias and Barnabas, and you go, oh, they didn't play a huge role. But I go, I don't know that Saul's story plays out the same without either one of them. Because you need Ananias to come and speak to him, to let him hear brother, to have him understand what he's been called to have the scales fall from his eyes and have someone there to encourage him. And then you need Barnabas to step in. Somebody has to be the first one to go like, no, I think this is legit. I think this guy's legitimately changed, and we need to give him an opportunity. Like, how many times, I mean, think about it, like our work life or, whatever in your life where you go, who is it that stuck their neck out for you in any scenario? You know what I'm saying?
And how much easier it is for the second and third and fourth person to go, yeah, okay, I was kind of thinking that, but I didn't want to step out just in case I was off.
Yeah.
I mean, like names just shot into my mind.
Sure.
Like just so grateful for people that go, I'm going to support Wes in this.
Yeah.
Like early on. So
Yeah, and he doesn't look like a good risk.
no,
Sure.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like some people you go like, I mean,
he's clearly gifted.
he's a good dude. Come on, man. Like I promise you it's going to be cool. His reputation way precedes him. And Barnabas is going, no, I think, I mean, we believe in Jesus. Jesus changed his lives. He changed our lives. I actually believe he did change this guy's life. Let's trust him. And like that's so massive. I think it also speaks to like why. So I would just say this first of all, like never think that your little part in the story, your short part in a story does not equal insignificance. Yep. The shortest moments in so many stories in the Bible are so profoundly significant, but we discount things. We often think if I don't, like in our modern Christian culture, we associate Christian success with what?
I mean, numbers.
Yeah. Are you a leader of a big church? Do you have a big platform, big following? It's what I call the 3 Bs: buildings, butts, and budgets. What kind of buildings you got, how many butts in the seats, and how much money you guys throwing around, because that equals success. It doesn't in Scripture. I think those things are neutral, right? Yeah. Like they can be good and bad. Yeah. But the truth is, the reality in Scripture is that God does infinitely more in short one-on-one moments than I think we ever give credit to. And some people have those moments and they go, I just wish God would use me for something. And I want them to read a story like this and go, oh my gosh, he is. He did, yeah. He's doing it all the time. Like I know some people, they're probably not prolific speakers or singers. And we've kind of minimized so much of Christian leadership down to people who can be on a platform and present well. Yeah. And that is such a reductionist view of what it means to be a Christian. Like God changes more lives at dining tables and on couches and in living rooms using regular people who are just being transparent. Like that's huge. Those to me are like that's when you look at this, you go, these are the unsung heroes of the faith. Like heaven is going to be filled. Like these are people whose names we know. Heaven will be filled with names we've never heard of.
And they'll be like, oh, that guy, here's what he did. That guy, here's what he did. You're like, oh, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, and all of them are just committed. Like Barnabas has called this too, disciple, right? Like they're just committed to being learners about Jesus and being faithful in their walk with the Lord. And God's faithful to use us if we'll be faithful.
I'll give you a quick example. Wes has heard me share this countless times, but it's something I pulled up in my notes when I was looking through this. And then I've got kind of one other thought that I want to kind of land with when we get back to Saul's story and just his heart for others. So I'm going to give you a name. Okay. I want you to tell me if you know who this is.
I love this. I already know where we're going.
Edward Kimball. Okay. Yeah, I know you do.
No, it's really cool that
you may not know a lot of these names, but here's what I want to show you, because if you've studied Christianity, went to Bible college or seminary, you would know a lot of these names. You may not know Edward Kimball. Edward Kimball was a Sunday school teacher. Like most people that are Sunday school teachers don't see themselves as playing some sort of major significant role. Some do. I wish they all did, but because they are, that's huge. But he's a Sunday school teacher, and he is sent to go talk to a young man who is a troublemaker in his class to ask him not to come back. This is many, many years ago. The guy he's going to talk to is a guy named Dwight Moody, who is working at a shoe store, and he goes and approaches him, and he can't do it. He can't tell him, man, you got to quit coming. His heart goes out to the kid. He has this deep heart-to-heart with him, and Dwight Moody, or who we will later know as D.L. Moody, gives his life to Christ because of Edward Kimball and becomes one of the most ferocious and relentless preachers of his time. He preaches, and a guy named F.B. Myers accepts Christ because of D.L. Moody, becomes one of the most prolific Bible teachers of his generation. J. Wilbur Chapman hears him preach. He helps lead revivals and all kinds of incredible things. And then you get a guy named Billy Sunday, who is evangelist, revivalist. He comes to faith under J. Wilbur Chapman, and he sets the world on fire. Like everywhere he goes, he is preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. He preaches to a guy named Mordecai Ham. Not a very common name. If you guys are still looking, and having more kids, you or Wes, I would strongly recommend Mordecai. I think it would be great. But Mordecai Ham becomes a preacher, goes from businessman to preacher, and he's preaching one day in an old-fashioned tent revival when a young man who is in that revival, gets up to walk out. And kind of the story and the lore around this is that Mordecai stops him, like in front of the whole crowd, and starts to have a conversation.
This is not a thing that happens in 2025.
He starts to have a conversation with him, and in the short version of this is he ends up accepting Christ and becoming a believer, and that guy's name is
Billy Graham.
Wow.
And so my point in this is when you look at those, what we think as smaller roles, if they're without Edward Kimball, think of all the names on that list and all the impact if just this Sunday school teacher who meets with a guy in a shoe store and tells him about Christ, if he doesn't like this, like that's the story of Paul, right? Like that's when you go, yeah, God knocked him off, knocked him down with light. Ananias and Barnabas invest in him, even ever so briefly. We don't know if they had other roles in his life later on, but in these moments where he recorded this brief interaction, but it's going to be what sets him up. And 2,000 years later, not only are we still reading his letters, but we've been reading them for 2,000 years. And so,
Love that story.
yeah, it's cool. The last thing I was going to say is, like, when you think about him, think about Saul, and again, most of you guys know this, but if you don't, like, later we'll refer to him as Paul in the New Testament. It helps explain his heart for other people, right? Like, who are some of the other people that his ministry is going to impact that is probably, you look back at moments like this where this guy, Paul, or Saul, as we know him in this part of the story, is he can't be reached. Like, he can't be used in the story of God. And then he is. And you think about how many other people Paul has that heart for. Like, do any examples come to mind for you, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I mean, the one that's in my head is Philemon, but that's because I preached it Sunday. But like, you just like
Say it, man.
His encouragement of just like you see it in the beginning, like he's so connected to Philemon. He's like, I love you. I love what you do for the gospel. I'm so grateful that you refresh the hearts of other people. And in every letter, there's always a list of names, right? Like at the end of every letter, it's like, tell Epaphras and tell Archippus and tell this person and this person. And like, you just see his heart for the individual person because his individual encounter with Jesus changed his life.
Yeah.
So like, he knows that if all these people would just surrender to Jesus, it'll change their life.
Yeah. Go back to the Philemon story. In the Philemon story, who's the central character that they're trying to reach?
Yeah, Onesimus.
And Onesimus' name
Useful.
means useful.
Yep.
But, and you read the text and it says, he who was useless has been made useful again. And I just go, I think when Paul wrote that, he was clearly talking about Onesimus, but I got to think Paul's sitting there going, dude, your name is my stinking testimony.
This is our story.
I was useless for the gospel, and now I'm useful. So you're kind of our our guy that represents, when you hear all this, what kind of stuff's going through your head?
Yeah, so I was actually going to say, my wife and I had a really lengthy conversation about your sermon on Sunday, and so when you brought back up Philemon, I was like, oh, okay, good. I was like, I just heard that, and that's one of the things that I like when you talk about the Sunday school teacher who inspired this person, who inspired that person, is it might not even be that direct, but your sermon inspired a conversation between my wife and I. And then that conversation might impact, like, how I am with our older son, Brandon, or how she is out in the world. And then who knows how that could impact and impact. Because we really did have, like, a lengthy conversation based off of what the sermon was about. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if I was to sum up at least this section of the story, and it's really what Paul's going to spend the rest of his life writing about. If Paul can be saved, if Saul can be saved, and we know him as Paul later, if God can reach him, then there's no one beyond his reach.
Yep.
Like, you can say whatever you want to say. You're wrong. God can reach you.
You need to I just want to say, I hope people are saying that to themselves.
Absolutely.
Like saying,
yes.
I know I did this, but
yeah.
Saul, what he did was probably in most cases objectively significantly worse. And
Yes.
this is still what happens. So
Yes.
whatever you're caught up on, that doesn't have to be the end.
Yeah, and we tend to do this. We kind of throw a little bit of our self-pity party and like discount the grace of God and go like it's not strong enough. And so if God can reach Saul and change his life, he can reach anybody. And then the other one is if God can call a guy like Ananias into action, then God can call you into action. Like God has a plan and a mission for you. And I think those are really important parts of this story as we look at this encounter of Saul when he met Jesus.
Just for you, Wes, now you know the rest of the story. For the Crossroads Podcast, we hope you will catch up with us next week. I'm Kevin Hageland. Good day.
That's so dumb.